Our Sun is a yellow dwarf star, and like all stars, it has a lifespan that ends in death. But the death of our Sun is not your typical stellar death. Our Sun will kill all life on Earth and then expand to become the largest star in the galaxy. This is the story of how the Sun will die and how it will completely reshape the solar system in the process. So when we talk about the size of stars, we really talking about mass, because mass determines how much pressure and temperature a star can endure before collapsing in on itself. Stars with more mass have more gravity, and they need more pressure and temperature to overcome that gravity. That means bigger stars burn their fuel faster and live shorter lives. The Sun is fairly average in terms of mass, so it's expected to live a pretty average stellar life. A typical yellow dwarf star like our Sun will spend 90% of its life fusing hydrogen into helium in its core. When the hydrogen in the core runs out, the core will contract and heat up, igniting the hydrogen in a shell around the core. As this process continues, the star begins to expand and cool, becoming what's known as a red giant. For stars like our Sun, this stage of a star's life is where it gets really big, up to 100 times the radius of the Sun. During this stage, the star will also begin to lose mass, as the outer layers expand and cool, creating a giant cloud of gas and dust. Eventually, the star will run out of hydrogen in this outer shell and the core will contract again, heating up enough to ignite helium into carbon. We don't know exactly what happens next because it hasn't happened yet. It won't happen for another 5 billion years. Most stars will end their lives by shedding their outer layers and leaving behind a small dense core called a white dwarf. If the star was less than 3 times the mass of the Sun, this will be the end of the star's life. But for our Sun, things are going to get a little different. That's because our Sun has a particular twin that's going to cause some serious problems. You see, there's a bit of a problem with the nice, neat model of stellar evolution that we just outlined. The fact is, most stars exist in systems with other stars, and when you get multiple stars close together, things get complicated very quickly. Here in the solar system, the Sun will not be alone during its red giant phase. There will still be 7 planets orbiting it, including Earth, and this is going to be a big problem. When the Sun becomes a red giant, it will expand out as far as Saturn's orbit, according to S. Thomas, an astronomer at the University of Exeter. This would mean that the Sun would either consume or vaporize the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, and Earth, and even the outer planets would face scorching temperatures and radiation as the Sun expands. Okay, so let's just assume for a moment that life on Earth doesn't somehow solve this problem. Even if humanity were to leave Earth and set up colonies on distant planets, we wouldn't be safe because the expanding Sun would destroy the entire inner solar system. Mercury and Venus would be the first to go. Mercury would either be consumed by the Sun or torn apart by the gravitational forces between the two bodies. Venus would fare slightly better, but would still be extremely hot and possibly stripped of its atmosphere by the Sun's expanding outer layers. Earth would survive a bit longer, but it would still meet a fiery end. As the Sun expands, Earth's orbit would begin to stretch further and further away. But according to calculations by astronomers, the Earth would eventually reach a point where the Sun's gravity would become too strong and it would get pulled in and destroyed. But what would happen to the outer planets? Surprisingly, Jupiter might survive the death of the Sun. You see, when the Sun expands into a red giant, it will push the outer planets out to extremely distant orbits. Some astronomers think Jupiter would be pushed as far as 700 astronomical units from the Sun. An O is the average distance between the Earth and the Sun, which means that Jupiter would be orbiting the Sun at a distance nearly twice the size of Pluto's orbit. But despite being so far away from the Sun, Jupiter would still receive enough sunlight to support life. So there's a possibility that life could survive the death of the Sun by traveling to Jupiter. Of course, we'd probably need some kind of warp drive or generational spaceship to make that journey. But if humanity could do that, then we could survive on Jupiter's surface or one of its moons. But what if we wanted to come back home? Unfortunately, if we did try to return to a post-Sun solar system, we wouldn't find much of anything left. After the Sun expanded into a red giant and consumed the inner planets, it would collapse in on itself and then explode in a supernova. Nothing in the solar system would survive the explosion. All that would remain is a cloud of gas and dust stretching as far as Pluto's orbit. If that sounds like a hard limit, you're right. No matter how advanced we become, we wouldn't be able to escape the fate of the solar system. Even light couldn't escape the Sun's gravity during its red giant phase, according to researchers. This means there would be no way to warn the rest of the universe about the impending doom. But here's the thing, this destruction of the solar system wouldn't be total. Like we said earlier, when the Sun becomes a red giant, it will expand out as far as Saturn's orbit and then shed its outer layers, creating a huge cloud of gas and dust. This material would form new worlds, giving rise to a new solar system. In fact, based on computer simulations, astronomers expect that after the Sun dies, the giant cloud of gas and dust would collapse and reform into at least 5 to 10 new systems. These systems would likely form within 2 million years after the Sun's death. And while these new worlds would likely be very different from the ones that existed before the Sun's death, it's possible that life could arise again. But what about the planet Jupiter? Would it survive the death of the Sun and then go on to form part of a new solar system? Well, probably not. Jupiter is massive, so massive that it doesn't quite fit into our current models of planet formation. Astronomers think Jupiter formed early in the solar system's history, when the Sun had a giant disk of gas and dust surrounding it. This disk of material coalesced to form the planets, and Jupiter formed from the material that coalesced closest to the Sun. Once the Sun expanded and destroyed this disk, there wouldn't be any more material for Jupiter to pull from, and this would prevent Jupiter from forming. That doesn't mean that the material that makes up Jupiter would disappear. After the Sun explodes in a supernova, the energy from that explosion would scatter material throughout the galaxy. Some of this material would eventually coalesce to form new systems, but Jupiter itself would not be one of them. It's a fascinating look into what will happen to our cosmic neighborhood in the far future. And it shows us just how dynamic our universe is. But for us humans, it's also a sobering reminder of the fragility of life. If we want to survive as a species, we need to be prepared for anything, even the death of our sun. So, what do you think? Would you rather live through the death of the sun or watch the heat death of the universe? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. This is our channel.